Why Disney abandoned this island forever, the dark truth. When one imagines Walt Disney World, the mind immediately conjures images of pristine castles, manicured lawns, and an atmosphere of carefully curated perfection. It is a place where paint is never allowed to peel, where litter is swept up before it hits the ground, and where reality is suspended in favor of fantasy. However, sitting in the middle of Bay Lake, within plain sight of the contemporary resort and the Wilderness Lodge, lies a jarring contradiction to this ethos. It is a festering wound in the heart of the magic, a place where the jungle has reclaimed the buildings and silence reigns, where laughter once echoed. This is the story of Discovery Island and River Country, the forbidden zones of the Disney Empire. To understand the magnitude of this abandonment, we must first look back at the ambition that birthed it. In the mid-1970s, Disney World was expanding its footprint. The company wanted to offer guests more than just the Magic Kingdom. They wanted to create immersive natural experiences. In 1974, they opened Treasure Island, later renamed Discovery Island. It was an 11-acre zoological park, a sanctuary for exotic birds and rare animals. It was a lush tropical retreat, accessible only by boat, offering a sense of adventure that felt distinct from the plastic fantastic of the theme parks. Just 2 years later, in 1976, Disney opened River Country. It was the first water park of its kind, designed to look like an old-fashioned swimming hole from the days of Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn. It used water from the adjacent Bay Lake, filtered through a massive system to make it safe for swimming. For decades, these two locations were staples of the Disney vacation experience. They were beloved, they were profitable, and they were alive. Then, the millennium turned, and the lights went out. The closure was not sudden, but it was surprisingly quiet. River Country closed for its annual winter refurbishment in November 2001, a standard procedure for water parks in Florida. But when the spring of 2002 arrived, the gates remained locked. A spokesperson stated that it would not open for the season. Discovery Island had already ceased operations in 1999, with its animals relocated to the newly opened Animal Kingdom. At the time, the narrative was one of business strategy. Animal Kingdom had rendered the small zoo on the island redundant. Typhoon Lagoon and Blizzard Beach, newer and more modern water parks, had made the rustic River Country obsolete. Disney simply stated that high-level demands for these older attractions had dwindled, but they did not demolish them. They did not repurpose the land. They simply walked away. For over 20 years, the facilities have sat rotting. This is where the story shifts from a business decision to something far more atmospheric and unsettling. Why would a company that meticulously manages every square inch of its property allow a rotting corpse of a park to sit in the center of its main lake? The visual contrast is stark. Guests renting pontoon boats on Bay Lake can sail right up to the perimeter of Discovery Island. Through the overgrowth, one can see the skeletons of aviaries, the crumbling docks, and the faded signs warning against trespassing. There are theories, of course. The most prevalent and disturbing rumor concerns biological safety. Florida authorities have long warned about Negleria fowleri, a brain-eating amoeba that thrives in warm, fresh water. In 1980, a young boy tragically died after contracting the amoeba, likely from the water at River Country. While the park stayed open for another 21 years after that incident, the legal and safety landscape changed. River Country used filtered lake water, not a closed chlorinated system like modern water parks. Bringing the park up to modern code would have required completely severing it from the lake and rebuilding the entire water system. The cost was likely deemed astronomical compared to the potential return. However, the abandonment of Discovery Island is harder to explain solely by water safety. The island is solid ground. It had walking trails, cages, and service buildings. When the staff left, they left behind more than just empty buildings. Urban explorers, known as the Urbex community, have risked lifetime bans and arrests to document the interior of the island. Their footage reveals a time capsule. Coolers were left in offices, paperwork still sits on desks, and photos remain on the walls. In the veterinary hospital on the island, supplies were left on shelves. It looks less like a planned closure and more like an evacuation. The eerie factor is amplified by Disney's aggressive protection of these sites. They are not merely closed, they are forbidden. The waters around Discovery Island are patrolled. Signs warn that trespassing is a serious offense. Yet, the allure of the forbidden draws people in. The most famous recent incident occurred in 2020, during the global pandemic lockdowns. A man named Richard Maguire was arrested on Discovery Island. He told police he had been living there for days, calling it a tropical paradise, claiming he did not know it was off-limits. He had planned to camp there for a week. The manhunt to find him involved deputies on boats and helicopters, highlighting just how seriously Disney takes the security of this abandoned zone. This creates a psychological dissonance for the observer. We are trained to view Disney as a controlled environment. Seeing nature brutally reclaim the magic breaks the illusion. Vines strangle the water slides at river country. Trees have grown through the roofs of the ticket booths. The boardwalks on Discovery Island are collapsing into the swamp. It is a real-world example of the life after people scenario. It reminds us that without constant maintenance, the jungle will always win. From a corporate standpoint, the reason the ruins remain is likely a mix of bureaucracy and finances. Demolishing structures on an island is difficult and expensive. You have to barge in heavy equipment, mitigate environmental damage to the lake, and deal with the debris. Since the island is not connected to the mainland by a bridge, the logistics are a nightmare. Furthermore, Discovery Island is a natural bird sanctuary. Disturbing the land now might violate environmental protections that didn't exist when the park was built. So it is cheaper to let it rot. It is a calculation. The cost of the eyesore is less than the cost of the cleanup dot, but for the fans and the curious, the calculation is different. The island represents a lost era of Disney history. It represents a time when the company took risks on weird, rustic, nature-based attractions rather than just intellectual property-based rides. The abandonment feels like a betrayal of that legacy. The rotting wood and rusted metal are symbols of a corporate shift away from the simple pleasures of a swimming hole or a bird walk, toward the high-yield, high-capacity, high-tech theme park experience. There is also the ghost story element. Every abandoned place generates legends. People claim to see lights on the island at night. They talk about the wild animals that were left behind, though records show the animals were moved. The spooky atmosphere is undeniable. At night, Bay Lake is pitch black. The island sits there, a dark void in the water, while the fireworks of the Magic Kingdom explode in the distance. It is the shadow explicitly ignored by the light dot in recent years. Rumors circulated that Disney might develop the river countryside into a new Disney Vacation Club resort. Indeed, they began clearing land for Reflections, a Disney lakeside lodge. However, construction paused, and the project's future remains uncertain, leaving the scars on the land even more visible. The ruins of the old water park are partially demolished to make way for the new hotel, but when the project stalled, it left the area in a limbo that is perhaps even uglier than the ruins were. As for Discovery Island, it remains untouched. It sits there, slowly sinking into the mud. The vultures roost in the old aviaries. The snakes sun themselves on the abandoned docks. It serves as a grim monument to the impermanence of entertainment. Disney sells the idea of happily ever after, a state of eternal joy and stasis. But Discovery Island proves that nothing lasts forever. Not even the magic. The story of Disney's Forbidden Island is not just about a closed park. It is a story about the limits of control. Disney is the master of controlling the environment, manipulating perspective, and directing the gaze of the guest. But they cannot control the passage of time, and they cannot control the curiosity of those who look where they are not supposed to. As long as that island sits there, green and overgrown and silent, people will ask questions. They will wonder what secrets are hidden under the canopy. They will wonder why the mouse let his house fall down in the end. Discovery Island and River Country are the most real things at Disney World. They are not plastic. They are not animatronic. They are dying, decomposing, and returning to the earth. In a kingdom built on fantasy, the most shocking attraction is the one that shows the harsh reality of neglect. It is a place where the music stopped playing 20 years ago, but the world kept turning, leaving the magic to rot in the Florida sun. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. If you enjoyed this video, learned something new, or simply want to see more content like this, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Your support truly helps the channel grow and reach more people. And if you have thoughts or ideas you'd like to share, feel free to leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next video.